Hey guys, it's Kristy here, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd do a video on the top 6 things you should not say to someone who has IBD. IBD is Inflammatory Bowel Disease. IBD is Inflammatory Bowel Disease. It is basically a sort of overarching term for Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, and I have had Crohn's disease for nearly 17 years, and Crohn's disease basically affects any part of your digestive system. I'm just going to give a really quick overview because I'm sure a lot of you probably know this already, or you've watched some of my other videos where I do explain what Crohn's disease is. But Crohn's disease is a disease, it's an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks your digestive system. It can affect any part of your digestive system from your mouth to your anus. So for me, it mainly affects my large bowel and my small bowel as well. As I've had it for 17 years, there has been a lot of things that have been said to me where I've been like, really? Did you literally just say that to me? And I guess these things all depend on the context. Some people can just be really trying to help, but they just don't know how to, so they say certain things. And in that case, it's like, oh, they're just trying to help. But there's sometimes people that sort of preach a little bit, and they say things that are a little bit like, no, 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 no. So some of you who have maybe a relative who has Crohn's disease and you're fairly new to the condition may actually find this maybe educational of what not to say to people who have IBD, and then some of you might just find this relatable. You might have had these things said to you in the past. It's just meant to be a bit of a fun video, don't take it too seriously. Before we jump into it, if you like these kind of videos, please give this video a thumbs up and I'll keep making these types of videos. Also, please subscribe if you want to become part of the family. The number is growing every day, and I just want to thank all of you who have subscribed so far. I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate all of your comments as well. So please do subscribe if you want to become part of the family, and let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that was said to me a long time ago, which really disheartened me actually. I had had my Crohn's disease for about a year or two. I really was struggling to accept it. I'd only told, I think, one of my friends. Her name was Emma. Apart from that, only my family knew, and so I just had one friend in school who knew what the disease was. I was aware of the singer Anastasia, who had Crohn's disease, and she was never really, this comes into the story later by the way, she was never really an idol of mine, but I remember thinking, oh, it's great that someone who has the same disease as me, you know, is out doing what they want and not letting it sort of hold them back. But I just remember being in class one time, I was maybe like 14 or 15, and this girl in the class called Carly, she was one of the like real popular crowd, just turned around to me and my friend, and for some reason she brought up Anastasia. I think she'd been reading a newspaper article about her, and she just says, oh yeah, Anastasia, she has that shitting disease, doesn't she? And I just looked at my friend and I just thought, oh my god, because it was the same thing that I have, and it is not just a shitting disease. Oh my god, it is like far from it. I mean, there are so many other symptoms that come with Crohn's disease. It is all the stomach pain that you get, it is the arthritis, it is the erythema nodosum, which are these sort of raised bruises on your skin. It is all the vomiting as well as all the diarrhea, all the weight loss, all the weakness, all the fatigue. It is so much more than literally just a shitting disease. If it was literally just a shitting disease, I'm sure it would be a lot easier for a lot of people. Certainly if all I did was that, it would be a lot easier than it has been for me. So it's definitely not just a shitting disease. It is far more intense. It is a wide-ranging set of symptoms. I'll have a link down below with something that lists all of the symptoms. It is a very worrying, sort of anxiety-inducing disease, and so yes, we do go to the toilet a lot, we have a lot of diarrhea. That causes a lot of worrying in itself, like where's the toilet, where's the nearest toilet? If I go here, will there be a toilet there? You know, will it be clean? It's another thing as well. But it's definitely not just a shitting disease. So that is something where now, if someone said it to me now, I'd be like, whoa, hold on here. But at the time, I was new to my condition. I didn't really know how to react. So it's definitely not something that people with Crohn's disease appreciate hearing. Second of all, and this is probably the most relatable thing, is, oh, I have IBS, I know just how you feel. And I do have a couple of friends who have IBS, and I really, really appreciate them. We're able to talk about, you know, certain things that maybe other people wouldn't understand. You know, oh, I had a really sore stomach today. Oh, you know, me too. Here, my stomach, I kept running to the bathroom all day. Me too. But it's about the delivery of it, I guess. Whenever you meet someone, or someone who has IBS is very like, you know, oh, I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly what it's like to have Crohn's disease because I have IBS. It's really important to understand that IBS is not the same as IBD. IBS stands for Irritable Bowel Syndrome, and IBD stands for Inflammatory Bowel Disease. So the IBS is a mobility issue. Yes, it can be really debilitating, but Crohn's and IBD comes with a whole other set of symptoms. IBS actually isn't as dangerous as having Crohn's disease. With Crohn's disease, it can be life-threatening. It can be, you know, you're in the hospital for weeks on end. It's really hard to treat sometimes. So IBS does come with similar symptoms in some respects, but it doesn't come with, you know, the arthritis, the erythema nodosum, all the skin problems, the eye problems that come with it. So whilst I appreciate my friends that have IBS and we're able to exchange stories, embarrassing stories about how our stomachs have been that day, it's for those people who are like, oh sure, I have IBS, I know exactly how you feel. It's like, no. So the next thing is for those people who I've met in the past and they've said, oh yeah, Crohn's, yeah, I know that, yeah. My uncle's second cousin's grandmother's sister had Crohn's, and you know, they just grew out of it actually. They just were cured. They just, you know, stopped having symptoms and were just fine. They're fine now. Whilst you know that could actually happen to some people, there are varying degrees of Crohn's disease. This is the thing about IBD in general, is it almost, there's almost different subsets of it, and I wouldn't be surprised one day if they, you know, split Crohn's disease into like 5 different types of Crohn's disease, and the same for ulcerative colitis, because there are so many different symptoms that people get, so many varying degrees of the condition. So people might have quite a light form of the condition and they might be able to get away without taking any medication. They might just go through periods of being sick and then going through remission, and it has no sort of rhyme or reason. Whereas there are people who have a very refractory form of the condition, which is very hard to treat. It needs really, really strong treatment with all sorts of medications. That unfortunately is the type of Crohn's disease that I have. It is very, very resistant to treatment. So whilst I appreciate that your uncle's second cousin's grandmother's sister or whatever may have just grown out of it, I think I know by now that I'm not going to grow out of it. So, you know, it's more like the preachy way of saying, I'm sure you'll just grow out of it. It's like, yeah, 17 years later, I just don't think so. The next thing I've heard whenever well, to be honest, it's not only whenever I meet people and they find out newly about my condition, it's for people who've actually known me for a long time. It's the whole thing of, if only you ate, you know, some basil, or if only you chewed on these Himalayan flowers, I think you would be a lot better, and it would really, really help your condition. I think after being NG tube fed for nearly 2 years and not being able to really eat much of anything, I really doubt that eating some kind of specific kind of nut or flower or some kind of herb isn't really going to help me. So whilst I appreciate the suggestion, I think I'll stick with what I know, which is sticking an NG tube up my nose into my stomach and NG tube feeding, which definitely does work for me, or sticking to my, whenever I am eating, my dairy-free, low sugar, low fat diet, although I do trip up a lot on that. But I found out what works for me, and I think I'm going to stick to that after having the disease for a long time. So I think it's important just to, if you're new to the condition, people can throw like all these suggestions at you, but it's important just to find out what works for you. Everyone's disease is completely different. So yeah, it's while suggestions are more than welcome, definitely, just don't be surprised whenever we maybe don't follow them. One thing I would actually be interested in trying in terms of a herb would be a medically supervised form of medical cannabis if that ever became legal here. I think that would be amazing to try. There's some great stories out there about medical cannabis, especially for people who have like epilepsy as well. But for IBD, apparently it really, really helps. Obviously it's illegal where I am, so I can't do that. But that is the one sort of herb or like natural form of something that I would really, really like to try, but unfortunately I can't. Maybe one day it'll be legalized here and I can do it under supervision of a doctor, because they would be able to tell me what's the best way to take it, what's going to be the most therapeutic. But in terms of, you know, maybe just try eating some coriander, that will help. Or, you know, maybe try, you know, eating lots of garlic. Yeah, I think you get the gist anyway. The next thing is literally like the worst thing that's ever been said to me. I literally stood there and I was like, did you actually just say that to me? Like, did that actually just come into your brain and it passed through a filter in your brain and you actually said it out loud? And this actually happened to me in work. So this is someone who has gone into the workforce and they actually managed to say this to me. So it was, here, you're so lucky, you're so thin. And this was while I was NG tube feeding. I was NG tube feeding in work. So I had the tube, and the NG tube is basically a nasogastric tube. It goes up your nose, down the back of your throat, into your stomach, and you liquid feed through it because you can't actually manage solid food. So I was NG tube feeding. Everyone at work knew I have Crohn's disease, and this person actually turned around to me and they said, oh my god, you're so lucky, you're so thin. You know, I actually have to go to the gym to look like this. I couldn't believe it, honestly. So whilst we may be skinny, it's I think most of us would rather be fat and well than be skinny and really, really sick. So if you're thinking maybe of saying that to someone who has a really bad case of some kind of disease, maybe just don't. And the final thing that I have to mention today is the all-time favourite, but you don't look sick, do you? And this can actually be a compliment as well, you know, for those people who really understand the condition and what you're going through, and they're like, do you know what, you still look really, really well, you know, in terms of, you know, your makeup's on point, despite the fact that, you know, you were vomiting first thing this morning and you didn't feel like getting out of bed. Your makeup's actually really on point, and you know, you're looking really well, despite everything you're going through. You're like, thanks. Because that's often what I try to do. I try to cover up the big bags under my eyes and the fatigued skin with my makeup. So that could actually be a compliment, but it's for those who say it in a certain context. So all of this comes down to context. It's for those who you've maybe asked for a little bit of help with something, or, you know, you have used a disabled toilet, for example, and they're like, why are you using that? You don't look sick, or you don't look disabled, or you don't look, you know, it all comes down to this whole thing of having an invisible disability. And I really have very little tolerance these days for anyone who basically discriminates against me for having an invisible disability. And that's where I need help with something. I'm not very good at asking for help with my condition, but if I do ask for help and then someone says, well, no, because you don't need help because you look fine, no. No, because I only ask for help when I really need it. So I have very little tolerance for being told, no, you know, no, you look fine. Like, why are you asking for that? I think that there's been a lot more awareness of invisible disabilities these days in the media. Certainly Crohn's and Colitis UK on their Facebook page. They're always campaigning for more awareness of invisible disabilities and getting better signage on disabled toilets that make it clear that not all disabilities are visible. But there's definitely still a big degree of invisible disability discrimination. So that's something that I really hate hearing in a certain context. And I'm sure, you know, as if you have IBD, you may experience this, but it's just important to stay really strong and say this is wrong, and to fight against it, not violently, but to stand up for yourself and say, you know, I have an invisible disability. Just because it's invisible doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean it's not, I don't warrant any help. So it's really important to ask for help whenever you need it, and to stand up for yourself whenever you're, you know, told, oh, but you don't look sick. So I hope this video was maybe a bit relatable for those of you who do have IBD or some kind of like invisible disability, whether it's IBD or not, and maybe educational for those who have a family member who has just been diagnosed or something. Maybe you're worried about what to say or what not to say. Maybe this will help out a little bit, but it's all a bit of fun. There are some serious topics in this, but don't come for me in the comments, please. If you like this video, again, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Please comment down below with any questions you have or any comments that you have about this topic. And please subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.